So this one, so it's about the new Riot MMO. An ad again. You serious? An ad. Obviously I love League. I'm not good at it anymore, but I love League. I love MMOs. So if you haven't heard about it, Riot are currently developing an MMO, and this guy, I've watched a video before where he's just talked about the world in general. Necrit. His other video was good, so I imagine this video is going to be good. So go check him out, especially if you're interested in it. And for some reason we are not subscribed, so we're going to subscribe now. And let's get into it. Races and classes of Riot's MMO according to law.
Well, I'm back. Last time we had a look at the world of Riot's MMO, and we talked about how the overall world design has been done for a few years now. If you have no idea what League's universe is about, I would recommend watching that one first.
Considering, like, it's not, obviously League's not a story game, and the way they sort of built the lore is really impressive, how, like, expansive it is. I'd definitely be interested in watching more videos, but honestly I can't wait until the MMO comes out. It's going to be great.
But now that we learned about the basics, we can dive into the other big MMO topic, the playable races and classes. When it comes to the races,
I don't know many about races. I know you have like the fox ears, like
the lore races of Runeterra. Now they each have their own unique story. In fact, at this point, it feels like we know
Zara, I can't remember.
Make up a brand
what is her name?
Race. Of course, they could always theoretically do it.
And then you have like the plushy things,
and
obviously you have humans.
Because that would be like forcing a new race into the world of Lord of the Rings. It would feel off among all the already established rules. I strongly doubt you wanna put a bunny person next to Aragorn.
Why not?
With that said, don't worry, because the lore will allow Riot to make up new races and make them feel natural. I'll show you their clever system in just a moment. But for now, just know that yes, we already know the races of this world. So the question is not going to be what races Riot is going to make up. The question is going to be, from the races that already exist, which ones will be playable? And perhaps more importantly, how will they be playable? You see, a few years back, I released a similar video where we talked about the classes and the races together with TB Skyen. And today, I would not recommend you watch that video. Back then, I was still clinging onto the idea that faction-based MMOs were a good idea. It worked for WoW, and it worked for my guilty pleasure, WildStar. Unfortunately, what I didn't know is that merely a year later, the idea of faction-based MMOs would crumble to dust. That's because factions have a massive flaw. Besides the fact that PvP is almost guaranteed.
But see, I haven't played WoW that much, so I don't really have much experience with faction-based. But I can see sort of the appeal of it, as well as sort of like something like BDO. Is BDO how would you describe BDO? It's not really. Is there factions in BDO? I can't really remember. I haven't played it properly in so long. There's not two factions anyway, so it's not split up. I've completely lost my train of thought. Let's just.
Needs to be one-sided. I mean,
if I remember what I was trying to say, I'll come back to it.
Especially if there is no compensation. Classic WoW is a perfect proof of that. Not to mention New World. But also, if you split everyone into two sides, you are splitting up your player base.
I haven't played New World yet. I was thinking about giving it a go because they're bringing out a new update.
The reason why
I don't know,
maybe it worked for WoW is because
Blizzard melts PCs, those.
Faction pride. People were proud to fight for the Horde or the Alliance.
With the temperature at the minute,
even back then, it really wasn't perfect.
I think New World will be the final nail in the coffin.
And they realized that factions didn't matter. And that's where Riot has the edge. You may know that League of Legends has a lot of different regions, where they all act independently and they all have unique relationships with their neighbors. Because of this, forcing faction alliances into this world would ruin the already established lore. So
give me a sec. Move the mic a bit. No, it's not intruding on the camera too much.
PvP factions are most likely not going to be a thing. However, despite that, League absolutely has faction pride. People love it when a new Shuriman champion is announced
that armor
because
looks
people
so good.
love that place. And people love it when the new champion is not Ionian, because goddamn we have too many Ionians. Nearly every League of Legends player has a favorite
looks so
region,
good.
and
Holy
you
shit.
bet when the MMO comes out, people will
that Tryndamere?
for that region.
Am I right?
This is where
that
the brilliance of Riot's world kicks in.
I feel
You
like
see,
it is.
the fundamental lore of
Darren.
League of Legends is based around the idea that
Demacian
anyone
armor looks
can
sick.
be from any region. After an event, the story
See, I've
reverts
never
west to
noticed
west
set
of
with those
migration.
years.
Races mixed up
Some
all
reason.
around the world.
It's weird.
So it's not
I've
like
never
there
noticed
is a
that.
furry region where you can
Like the
only
3
see
years I played it,
furries.
I've never
There
noticed.
are definitely regions where you can see more furries, but this world doesn't
Can't tell
have
whether that's
exclusives.
cool
This
or
means
terrifying.
that when you're picking up what you want to play, besides just picking a race and a class combination, I strongly suggest Riot also allows people to pick their origin, with the origin being the starting region. Without a system like this, you would force all human champions to be, for example, Noxian. And that is simply not how this world works. So, I've been mumbling about how this world works for quite a while. So now, let's actually dive into all the races that exist in this universe. Spoiler alert, League doesn't have too many different races, because it's focusing
I can name
on
3.
Over
well, I know of 3.
Course,
I don't know the names of them. Obviously you have human.
Race.
Yeah.
But it would be cool if the humans varied depending on their origins.
Right, okay.
For example, if you pick a human from the Freljord, they would be an Iceborn and they would have extra frost resistance.
Makes sense.
A Demacian could have a bit more magic resistance, Ionians could have a bit more nature resistance, Shuriman's heat resistance, and so on. I think it's going to be crucial for Riot to preserve the feeling of every origin feeling at least slightly different.
I think it's with... What are you list, like 5 different human races? But I think with like the resistant stuff, I think that would fit better with what we said previously. We said you get to sort of pick what faction, well, what location you belong to or region. And like if you pick that region, like if you pick the Freljord, you get the frost resistance, and then you get an additional bonus for whatever race you pick. But I don't know if that would be too lore friendly then though. We'll see. See what else he has to say.
Despite the fact that balancing is usually a big issue, I strongly believe these RPG
balancing is an issue in every game.
But if Riot is afraid of people min-maxing the game from the very beginning, focusing on the origin stat with the most value, Riot can always do the safe thing and only give each origin...
What is min-maxing? I actually have no idea. Like, I'm not used to that at all. I'm sorry, I have no knowledge of min-maxing at all. I could do some education on it. I've never tried to min-max in a game. I never really researched into it, so I have no idea what it actually is.
Different customization.
Maybe we should learn.
In the Freljord, people tend to be more pale, with lush beards and Nordic tattoos all over their bodies. Shurimans have the classic dreadlock style. People from Bilgewater have the pirate crew tattoos. Piltovans are your fancy mustache people. And Ionians have the wild, untamed hair and beards. So even without special origin stats, I do believe these
headpieces are so weird. It makes listening to hearing about Piltover again makes me want to rewatch Arcane. I haven't watched that show in so long.
Nothing too special in an RPG world.
Such a good show.
So now let's have a look at the more unique races. After humans, the second most spread out race are the Vastaya. As we mentioned in the last video, the Vastaya are a race that came to be after humans started mating with magical animals. But the thing is, depending on where they are from, there are loads of different kinds of Vastaya. From cat boys to fox girls to lizard girls. In fact, here's a family tree of all the Vastayan tribes, and even this doesn't cover all of them. And this is where Riot can pull off something genius. As I said, this world already has set rules. So it would be very difficult to introduce a brand new race into this universe. However, it is going to be very easy to just make up a new Vastayan tribe. So I propose that Riot doesn't make the Vastaya as a playable race overall, but instead it would be cool if Riot let the specific tribes to be playable races.
I can see how that works.
Leave the door open for them to introduce new playable races.
Or stuff like that would work, definitely.
If they cross off all the Vastaya at once, they kinda shoot themselves in the foot. But I know, here I go mumbling about how the world works.
Oh, I just feel
so let's have a look at some of the
those slippers are class.
When I say Vastaya, most people think of Ari. She comes from the Vasani that look like foxes. Although her tribe is mostly gone, the lore can justify new members to be found, so they can be playable. The Kilash tribe comes from the jungles between Shurima and Ishtal. These lion-like people are known for hunting dangerous beasts, and they take great pride in trophy collecting. It's the average mount collector. The Shimon tribe are monkey-like people from Ionia. While their older members are very wise, their younger members can be very goofy. The Otrani come from Mount Targon, resembling the classic goat people. Their hobbies are taking care of the Stellarcorns. The Lothland tribe are Ionians who resemble bird people. This tribe likes to combine the art of dancing with lethal assassinations. The Uvikat are something close to lizards, though they do have the ability to shapeshift. Out of all of the other tribes, these are the closest to their pure ancestors. And we also technically have the Marai, the fish people whom I doubt are going to be playable. Imagine modeling boots for them. Now, these were the more pure-blood tribes, but there are many more Vastaya who don't fit any of these. For example, Set has an Ionian Vastayan mother and a Noxian human father, so he doesn't really have a tribe. Long story short, the Vastaya are an incredibly versatile race and Riot can use them in a million different ways. This is where they can really go wild.
Some of this art is so good.
Now,
let's
have a look at the third most popular race.
It's so good.
The Yordles. These
Yordles, that's the other one.
Tiny people. In League of Legends, people either adore them or hate them. There is no in-between. Kinda like those guys. But not those guys, everyone hates them. There is no doubt in my mind that Yordles will be playable. Even though they have an interesting catch. You see, unlike all the other races on Runeterra, Yordles are immortal. They are essentially modes of magic that come from a hidden magical realm known as Bandle City. And because they are made of magical essence, when they die, we don't really know what happens. But we assume they return to the Bandle City and there they respawn. With that said, the lore suggests that maybe Yordles can die, but they just can't die of old age. But let's ignore that, that's a massive rabbit hole. So, you know, when it comes to gameplay...
They can die of old age, but they can't. That's weird.
Now,
and I guess
Yordles are immortal...
I guess like a longevity sort of thing, like sort of age takes its toll on the spirit, and then just slowly like fades out, and eventually it just doesn't have any more power. So whereas you can keep getting revived when when you're just killed normally, when they're killed in battle, but by the time they get to the old age, like their soul's just gone. Suppose that's how it would work, right?
In most cases, they are always happy and cheerful. Even their home realm is very colorful because of that. But then there is also Vex, a Yordle champion who has recently been added into League of Legends, who gives Yordles an interesting perspective. You see, unlike all the other Yordles, Vex hates living.
Isn't Vex corrupted?
She hates the bright colors and the cheerfulness. You know, it's the average League player, so Vex is constantly in deep depression and agony. All she wishes for is to leave this world, but she can't, because Yordles can't die.
Right.
Anyway, just like all the other races,
I thought
Yordles
Vex
can be found all around Runeterra.
was
There
corrupted
is Poppy,
by the
Demacia,
mist.
Colette in Noxus, Kennen in Ionia,
I might be
Rumble
wrong.
in Shurima, and so on. But now, so far we have only covered the races which I'm pretty sure will launch with the MMO.
What the shit is
the
that?
humans, the Vastaya, and the Yordles are the core of this world. So now we are diving into the races that still exist in this universe. But it's going to be up to Riot if they make them playable. First of all, there are the Minotaurs. The Minotaurs are different from the Vastaya because they don't have magical ancestors. They are just a standalone race. Originally, the Minotaurs controlled the mountains south of Noxus, but because Noxus is Noxus, soon they absorbed the Minotaurs into
what's the
their
ones
empire.
called with like horse bodies?
Some Minotaurs fled the tyranny of Noxus
like a horse
and they joined
bottom,
the other regions.
the middle
Great
top,
example
the
is
human
Riot,
top.
the Minotaur fighting in the elite
Is it
armies
centaurs?
of Demacia. And yes, the Minotaurs also have the stereotypical sexy female version in this universe, so they can easily be turned into a playable race. Next, in Bilgewater, there is an incredible amount of weird fishy people. A lot of these could be really cool playable races when Bilgewater
is one of them,
gets its
right?
expansion. Although modeling helmets for a hammerhead shark is going to be interesting. We also can't forget about the trolls.
You just hide the you just cut the hammerhead off.
The ice trolls, but there
shave it down.
Also the sand trolls. And here's an interesting fact for League veterans. We have never seen a sand troll, but because of Ezreal's adventures, we know they exist. They should be around Ikathia, which is where Jax is from, who also has 3 fingers, by the way. So it is extremely likely that the mysterious Jax is a sand troll. Regardless, the majority of trolls are united under Trundle, the self-proclaimed Troll King, who is fighting in the service of Lysandra, who is a baddie even though she is morally right. So since the majority of the trolls are our enemies, I doubt they will be a playable race. Lastly, let's not forget that this universe also has Yetis. Fun fact, before everything got frozen, the Yeti civilization was very advanced. They even had their own technology based around
is actually chemically enhanced, isn't
the Yeti Nunu
is it by Singed?
Is a hologram from the Yeti technology.
It's Chemtech.
But then, as the civilization disappeared,
Singed injected
the
with Chemtech, right?
more ferocious. So no,
I need to catch up on League lore.
Either. But that's pretty much it.
Completely forgot it.
As I mentioned, there aren't too many different kinds. But that's because Riot is avoiding mimicking other RPGs. That's why there are no dwarves or elves here. Runeterra is simply trying to be unique in every way, and so far, it is working. Now, I also have seen some people asking if Darkin will be playable. To which I have to say,
I don't play Aatrox.
That's like asking if you can play as a god. The Darkin are a corrupted version of the Ascended God Warriors. A single Darkin can annihilate an army of 1,000. In fact, the Darkin known as Aatrox is the only being in existence that managed to kill a celestial god. He stabbed someone wielding the power of the Aspect of War so hard, the Aspect of War died. So no, I don't think Darkin will be playable. Anyway, with all the races covered, assuming Riot is going to use the origin system,
there's only like 5 or 6 classes in the game, right?
Look like. Humans are versatile, they are everywhere, there is not much to mention there. When it comes to the Vastaya, the common tribes can easily appear in Noxus, Piltover and Bilgewater. These are the regions open to everyone. On the other side, the Vastaya are closely linked to spiritual magic, so you will hardly find one in Demacia, since it is a firmly anti-magic region. And somehow, not many Vastaya were
ever the Yordles in Demacia though, because if they're fully made out of magic.
Force them there. But then we have Shurima, Ionia and Targon. Assuming these would be saved for expansions, they could be used to introduce new playable races. Since I doubt all the newcomers remember the names, the Kilash, Lothlan and Otrani are the lion people, bird people and goat people. When it comes to the Yordles, as I mentioned, they can originate from anywhere. But they do avoid the Freljord and Targon because of the harsh climates. And yes, I know there were some prehistoric Yordles in the Freljord, but after it got covered in ice, they disappeared. And lastly, the Minotaurs can be found in Demacia and Noxus.
Right. Okay.
But it does make sense for some of them to flee to the Freljord, and others to travel to Ionia during the invasion. With all of this said, remember, this is just my decently educated opinion.
I'm trying to think, so why is it you have marksman, fighter,
Riot could also lift the limitations and let every race start in every region. And I would be fine with that. Some story would be wonky, but it wouldn't be anything.
Is that the only rank classes?
I still believe some racial exclusivity helps the feeling of RPGs. So, all of this is still only the first half of the video. If you want to take a break and do your business without washing your hands, now's your chance.
Well.
Yeah, you can join me in but first, check out that news playing.
We're gonna keep watching.
What? I'm going to...
Been a good video so far there.
This program will continue in 5 seconds.
Did you wash your hands? Okay,
nope.
So far we only covered the races.
Washes the hands nowadays, like, come on.
Easy part. The much more difficult part are going to be the classes. This is where Riot is facing a great challenge.
I haven't washed my hands since COVID came out.
Because there are inherently no wrong answers when it comes to designing a class system. You can really make anything work.
Shen's armor is so cool.
But
holy shit.
More than that, Riot is challenged by the setting itself. League of Legends currently has over 160 different champions.
Yeah,
they each have unique abilities, and together they can define about 40 different classes. I counted them myself. From these, Riot has to pick only a handful to be playable, which means the majority of the classes won't make it in, and people who love those classes will be disappointed. Thankfully, I'm not a designer, so instead of trying to figure out how to make this work, I'm going to show you all the cool, unique classes this universe has. And again, because region pride is a big part
I'm just thinking, what are they called in game then? Then they're not called classes.
But not the warrior.
Like marksman and
is different in every single region. So let's start with that. The warriors in this universe provide a unique.
Every game has a warrior. Like every game has a human.
It's because in every region,
it's just the standard class.
Warrior is represented by something
else. Ben.
In Demacia, it is the Dauntless Vanguard. These are the classic knights in shiny armor pursuing justice. In Noxus, the traditional warrior would be part of the Trifarian Legion, which is a rank you can achieve after killing your best sparring friend. Coincidentally, the aspect of justice can also be found in League, its scale. So what's happening is that when Garen is casting his ultimate, it is not him magically creating a holy blade in the sky. It is actually the aspect of justice answering his call. So even though this universe doesn't really have a paladin class, which would be casting holy spells, this would be a really cool alternative. People who worship the aspect of justice and let her answer their calls. Pretty cool, but now let's move on to Noxus.
It'd be a bit awkward when Garen's fighting Kill though. Imagine like he uses his ult and it just comes and doesn't come down because Kill's fighting him.
With functional guns. In Noxus you can also find a lot of demonic cultists, so I would expect a warlock or a demon summoner, and they also have a few renowned assassin guilds. And the most unique of them all, Noxus also has a circle of hemomancers. People who follow Vladimir, a lord who used to be a hostage to the Darkin, and who eventually learned how to use their blood magic. So these people use the very same blood magic that shaped the Darkin. Then in Shurima, we may find arcane mages. These people follow Zerath, the most powerful mage on Runeterra, whose body has been reduced to nothing but arcane energy. I would honestly love to see this class in-game, because I love the idea of having an Archon form on cooldown. Shurima also has some prophets who can open up tiny portals into the void and summon tiny void creatures. It would be sort of like Warlock in WoW. You know, use the power of the enemy against themselves. Then there are the Sand Shifters, people who can use the sand to create sand mirror images. And we can't forget about the Chronomancers, people who use time magic in a lot of creative, interesting ways.
These graphics are so good.
Piltover, riding off of the success of Arcane,
I love art like
people
this.
will want to play as a Warden, which is a more elite version of the Enforcers. These would be equipped with sniper rifles and stun grenades.
Right, okay.
On the crafty side, there are also the Hextech Engineers. These are the people who can use science to allow them to wield magic even if they are not mages.
That would be quite a
and
fun
separate from them,
class
there
to
are
play.
also the Artificers. To them, anything from a powerful arm to
I really want to
blade
watch
legs
Arcane
should
again
be
now.
possible. And down in Zone, I would
Such a
love
good
to
show.
see some kind of an
I need to watch it
alchemist
again.
who's using questionable drugs to help his allies.
That looks so
Next
weird.
we go into the
Like, imagine having that in
Here
your
we can
head.
find the Draklorn Inquisitors, which
How
are
long's-
Lissandra's followers with abilities
Gotta
to
end soon, how
interact
long's-
through ice. Essentially,
right,
these
okay,
would
that's
be
fine.
frost battle mages. But perhaps the most iconic for the Freljord would be the Shamans. These worship the animalistic primal gods of the Freljord, and all their abilities mimic the primal gods, be it a bear, a fox, a mammoth, or a boar. Then on Dargon we would find a lot of people with celestial powers. You know, calling down stars and such. But there are also the Solari who use the power of the sun to enhance their attacks. They also wear massive plated armor, so
the pitch is
this
really
would be
bright.
the tank class. Or
I feel like that's the
Munari,
actual
who
sun
use
there.
the power of the moon to stay in the shadows. This would be more of an assassin class. Besides these, there are also a lot of star callers around, and even draconic worshippers. Then in Ionia, besides the Vuju Blade Masters, which would be far too overpowered, some people choose to fight without a blade. These would be the monks
And without
of
eyes.
Mana. They channel the power of Ionian dragons to empower their limbs. And don't worry, they are a bit different from the traditional monks. They are far more badass. Think less Bruce Lee and more Dragon Ball. But of course, Ionia is also home to the Kinku ninjas. Their goal is to maintain balance in Ionia. This means that when a spirit starts killing
It'd be
people,
cool to play like
the
a Shen
ninjas
type
go out
person.
and deal with the spirit. And when people start terrorizing the spirits, the ninjas go out and deal with the people. Most of these are your classic ninjas empowered with spiritual magic. But some are using the forbidden shadow technique. And while they surely look evil, just like anything in League of Legends, it's not really one-sided. These ninjas are simply using questionable techniques to protect their homeland.
Right, okay.
And honestly, the Shadow Ninjas are so iconic for Ionia, I really do believe they will be playable. Then we get to Bilgewater. Besides all the things that you could do with pirates and monster hunters, the most iconic class of this place are the priests of Buru. The Buru worship the god of motion called Nagake Boros. While they are priests, they fight with full physical strength, while borrowing power from the god to empower themselves. Usually this means the god spawns tentacles to smack the enemies around. But they also have healing powers, so that would be a really cool support class. In Riot's RPG called Ruined King, you can play as Flowey, the High Priestess of Nagake Boros. And there you can see all the attacks she can pull off.
Maybe.
And this takes us to the last place,
I think it's got good to these.
which will most likely be saved for an expansion. As I mentioned in the last video, Ishtal specializes in only one thing: elemental magic. So if elemental mages become a class, and they should, even in League elemental dragons are a core mechanic, they would come from Ishtal. But that's it for all the unique classes this universe has to offer. Funnily enough, when I was drafting all these classes, I realized a lot of them fall under specific categories. So going with the skin idea for all the classes wouldn't be too unreasonable. But developing so many artistic variations of the classes would be taxing. So overall, I believe
it just depends how much time they want to spend on it and how long they want to take
so many options, it's going to happen
developing it.
Instead, pick a couple of
surely they want it out as soon as possible.
You know,
also still having a good quality to it.
And just have fun. Having fun during development usually translates into great experiences. And I hope I'm not pressuring anyone by stirring up hype. If anything, I'm just happy that people find these videos interesting. And all I'm doing is presenting information that Riot released over the past 10 years. I mean, I know the video is interesting because Asmon only paused 3 times and he said, "That's fucking cool." And I like it a lot. And
that's what the fuck? This is actually really cool. I didn't know any of this.
That to me marks a big success. Next time we are going to talk about all the already established raid bosses of this universe.
We watched that video on Tuesday's stream.
Topic for me. You know, I am a father.
That was the other video I wanted to watch. It's about an hour long. We'll watch it on Tuesday's stream.
Just the right age to heal my raids.
Right. That was a really good video. I'm looking forward for that game to come out. Make sure to check out Necrit. He makes amazing videos, and I look forward to the other videos he's posting.